What's the most insane thing your ex blamed you for? Story 1. My ex once blamed me for her getting fired. At first, I was genuinely confused because I didn't even work at the same company. According to her, I jinxed her job by saying I was proud of her the night before she was called into HR. She claimed that me saying, "You've been killing it lately, I bet you'll get a promotion soon," was bad energy, and that I spoke it into existence when she was written up for being late too many times. This woman was late to work literally every day. I'd wake her up multiple times, sometimes even drive her because she'd oversleep. But no, apparently, I cursed her career by being encouraging. The wildest part? She was dead serious, even cried about it and made me apologize. I realized then that I couldn't be in a relationship where normal support gets turned into witchcraft. She still texts me sometimes saying things like, "Ever since you left, things have gotten worse. Thanks a lot. Ma'am, you were late. That's on you." Story 2. My ex blamed me for her sister getting pregnant. Yeah, you read that right. We were together for about a year, and I had literally met her sister 3 times. One day, she's pacing around the apartment, freaking out, and says, "This is your fault." I thought she was joking. But nope. She said that because I introduced her to the concept of open communication in relationships, she shared some of our conversations with her sister. Her sister then supposedly applied this open communication with her boyfriend, which somehow led to them deciding to stop using condoms. I stared at her, waiting for a punchline. There wasn't one. She said, "If you hadn't pushed all these deep relationship talks, none of this would have happened. Lady, your sister's womb is not my responsibility." That was the moment I started planning my exit strategy. Story 3. My ex blamed me for her losing a volleyball tournament. Not because I distracted her or gave her bad advice or anything logical. Nope. She said it was because I wore the wrong color shirt. Apparently, my red t-shirt clashed with her team colors and threw off the vibe during the game. Her entire mood shifted after the match. She was quiet during the ride home and then finally said, "You knew our jerseys were blue. Why would you wear red?" I laughed, thinking she was being playful. She wasn't. She went into this weird rant about energy fields and how I disrupted her frequency. I wish I was making this up. I asked if her opponents were also on a perfect frequency, and she just blinked at me. We broke up 2 weeks later when she said my dog gave her competitive anxiety. Story 4. She blamed me for her phone getting stolen from her own car while she left the doors unlocked at a gas station. I wasn't even there. Apparently, the day before, I'd distracted her with emotional conversations, and that's why she was off and forgot to lock her car the next day. This was after we had a calm talk about where our relationship was going. Not a fight, just a conversation. She called me crying from a borrowed phone, said everything was spiraling because of me. She was so emotional she didn't notice the doors were unlocked. Said it was indirect sabotage. She literally told me, "You didn't take the phone, but you created the chaos that let it happen." Ma'am, what? I ghosted after that. I couldn't be responsible for every butterfly effect in her life. Story 5. My ex blamed me for her bad dreams. Like, not occasionally. She made it a recurring issue. If she dreamt I cheated, I was emotionally betraying her on a subconscious level. If she dreamt I died, she'd wake up mad that I left her alone. I once woke up to her sobbing and punching my shoulder. I asked what was wrong, and she said, "You cheated on me in my dream with my mom. You're disgusting." I just stared at her like, "Are you hearing yourself?" She wouldn't speak to me the whole day. I apologized, out of sheer survival instinct. But then she wanted me to go to therapy to figure out why I do that in her dreams. I did end up going to therapy, just not with her, and not for dream cheating, but to understand why I tolerated that circus for so long. Story 6. My ex blamed me for her cat running away. I don't even like cats. That thing hated me and I kept my distance out of respect. One day, the window was left open, which she did all the time, and her cat vanished. Instead of taking any accountability, she turned to me and said, "You let your energy drive her away." Excuse me? She went on about how cats are intuitive and feel negative male presence. So clearly the cat was reacting to me. I reminded her that I wasn't even home when it happened. She said that didn't matter. The cat could feel my vibe in the apartment even when I wasn't there. She held a candlelight, return the cat ritual that, I'm not kidding, there was incense, a bowl of tuna, and a chant. The cat never came back, but I sure did, to grab my stuff and leave. Story 7. My ex blamed me for her not getting along with her own mom. She said ever since she started dating me, she and her mom kept fighting. I asked what we were fighting about, and she said, "It's just your whole presence. You make me rethink things. You make me feel like I should stand up for myself." So, I was blamed for her growing a backbone? She told me I was a bad influence because I encouraged her to have boundaries. Like when she didn't want to lend her mom money again after she already did it 3 times. and I told her it was okay to say no. Apparently, that spiraled into a big fight. I didn't even meet her mom more than twice. Still, somehow I was the root of their generational trauma. The irony? She used to thank me for helping her feel empowered. But when things got tough, suddenly I was the villain for giving her a spine. Story 8. My ex blamed me for her forgetting to submit her college assignment, which she had 2 weeks to do, and I reminded her multiple times. She was in graduate school and I always supported her. I'd make coffee when she had late-night study sessions, give her space when she needed it, even helped her quiz herself. One week, she had this huge research paper due. I reminded her every day that week, don't forget your deadline on Friday. She kept saying, I got it, babe, chill. Then Friday comes, and she has a full-blown breakdown because she forgot to submit it. Not because she didn't do it, she actually finished it, but she just didn't upload it. You know whose fault that was? Mine. Her exact words. If you hadn't been so on top of reminding me, I wouldn't have gotten comfortable and assumed I'd already done it. I was like, so, you're blaming me because I reminded you too well? She said yes. Apparently, my reliability was the problem. I told her I'd stop being a crutch. She took that as an insult. We didn't last another week. Story 9. She blamed me for her sprained ankle, that she got chasing another guy. No joke. We had broken up for like 2 weeks during a rough patch, and during that time she started texting this guy she met at the gym. Nothing serious, she said. When we got back together, she told me everything was cut off, done, over. Fast forward a month, we're out shopping, and she sees the guy across the street. I didn't even notice. Next thing I know, she's bolting across the road, in platform heels, mind you, and bam! She trips off the curb, hits the pavement, and rolls her ankle. Ambulance, crutches, whole mess. Later, when I asked her why she ran like that, she said, I panicked. I didn't want him to see me with you and get the wrong idea. I was like, we're literally dating again? What wrong idea? Then came the kicker. This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't made me feel guilty about that situation. I wouldn't have run. So now it was my fault that she tried to hide me from a guy she was supposedly done with. I helped her to the ER that night. Broke up for real the next day. Story 10. He blamed me for the death of his fish. No, I didn't touch the fish. I didn't feed it anything weird. I didn't even like the thing. It was a betta fish that lived in a dirty tank he refused to clean. This fish's water looked like it came from a swamp. One morning, he finds it floating at the top and immediately storms into the bedroom like, what did you do? I thought he was joking. Nope, dead serious. He started interrogating me like we were on CSI Fish Tank Unit. His theory? That the fish died from sadness because I gave it bad vibes. I reminded him he hadn't changed the water in over a month. He said, yeah, but it survived that before. You've been giving it attitude lately. I honestly didn't know how to argue with that. Like, what's the rebuttal to being accused of emotional fish murder? I ended up leaving not long after. Not just because of the fish thing, but because I realized I was dating someone who fully believed his pet could absorb negative energy like a sponge and perish from emotional distress. That tank wasn't the only toxic environment. Story 11. My ex blamed me for her getting a sunburn. We were at the beach with her friends. I brought sunscreen. I offered her sunscreen. She said, nah, I want a bit of a tan. Fast forward to the next day, she's red like a lobster, miserable, can't move her shoulders, and suddenly it's my fault. You should have made me put it on. I reminded her I'm not her parent. She said, you always let me make dumb decisions. That's not what a supportive boyfriend does. So now I was a bad boyfriend for respecting her autonomy? She then followed it up with, if you actually cared, you would have just ignored me and put the sunscreen on anyway. I said, I'm not going to wrestle you on a towel like we're doing sunscreen MMA. She didn't find that funny. I did. So I guess that also made me the villain. Story 12. My ex once blamed me for her getting locked out of her apartment in New York City while I was in another state entirely. We were doing long distance at the time. She called me freaking out one night, saying she'd gone down to grab takeout, left her keys inside, and locked herself out. I felt bad. I stayed on the phone with her while she waited for the locksmith. Then she hit me with, this is your fault. I asked how, and she said, you distracted me. I was thinking about our last conversation and how cold you sounded. I was overthinking it and just forgot my keys. So now, me being emotionally distant, I had just had a family emergency, mind you, mentally disarmed her ability to grab her keys. Then she got mad that I didn't offer to Venmo her for the locksmith. I didn't even know she expected that. Long distance is hard. But psychic key responsibility? That was a new one for me. Story 13. He blamed me for ruining his gamer reputation online. We were playing this multiplayer game he was obsessed with. He begged me to join so we could duo queue. I'm not great at shooters, but I did it to bond with him. One match, I accidentally got him killed by running in the wrong direction. It was genuinely a mistake. He screamed into his mic, then rage quit. Later, he said his online friends started treating him like a noob because of me, and he was losing rank because of how I played. I only played with him 3 times. 3. Then came the real dagger. You don't respect my gaming, brother. I watched you stream for hours. I brought you snacks during tournaments. But because I forgot to revive you in a digital war zone, I suddenly didn't care about his dreams. I realized I wasn't dating a guy. I was dating a Call of Duty war general whose legacy I had apparently tarnished. We broke up. He posted an Instagram story later that week. No distractions, just grind now, 100% video game. You're welcome, champ. Story 14. She blamed me for her not being emotionally available to her next boyfriend. We were done for months. No contact. Then, out of nowhere, she messaged me this long paragraph saying that I set the standard too high emotionally and made it hard for her to connect with anyone else. I thought it was a compliment at first, until I kept reading. Apparently, I ruined her ability to compromise. She said I was too patient, too understanding, and listened too well. So now she couldn't tolerate normal guys. Then she actually said, you should have shown more flaws so I wouldn't be disappointed with other men. So I was supposed to underperform on purpose? Be more toxic? Lower the bar? I just replied, you're welcome, I guess, and blocked her. Imagine being blamed for being too good of a boyfriend. Insane. Story 15. My ex blamed me for her dream not coming true. She wanted to start a podcast. Cool, supportive idea. I helped her buy the mic, set up the software, even made a logo for her. She recorded 2 episodes, then just never edited them. A few months later, she had a meltdown. Said I didn't push her hard enough, that I should have held her accountable and scheduled time for her to record. She said, I needed you to manage me. That's what a partner does. Lady, I'm not your producer. I'm your boyfriend. She even told her friends that I killed her creative spirit. One of them DM'd me like, why didn't you help her chase her dream? I sent them the folder with her 2 untouched audio files. The weirdest part? She still uses the logo I made in her Instagram bio, under a podcast that never existed. Story 16. My ex blamed me for her losing a childhood friend. She had a best friend from grade school that she'd recently reconnected with. They went out a few times, had brunches, all was good, until one day she came home in tears saying, you ruined it. I was like, huh? What did I do? She said her friend told her she seemed different now, more mature, more opinionated, not as agreeable, and that it made their dynamic feel off. Apparently, I was the reason for that. She said, you made me see things differently, and now I can't go back to who I was. So because I helped her grow as a person, it was somehow my fault her old friend didn't vibe with the new version of her. It was like she expected me to issue a refund for the personality upgrade. I never even met the friend. Story 17. He blamed me for his car getting towed while I was out of town visiting my family. He parked in a clearly marked no parking zone near my apartment. I reminded him that spot was off limits like 3 times. He said, it's fine, I've parked there before. Next morning, boom, car's gone. Instead of blaming himself for ignoring signs and my warnings, he calls me yelling, saying it's my fault because you should have reminded me again. And why didn't you put a note on the door or something? Sir, I was literally in a different state. He doubled down too, told our mutual friends that I let it happen and could have prevented it. One of them asked me if I actually knew it was a tow zone. I sent them a picture of the bright red tow warning sign hanging right over the spot. Still didn't change his mind. To him, I was complicit. We didn't last long after that. Shocking, I know. Story 18. My ex blamed me for her gaining weight. This one still blows my mind. We were both foodies, loved trying new places. I never once pressured her to eat anything. If anything, she always picked where we went and what we ordered. Then one day, out of nowhere, she says, you encouraged me to eat like this. You never stopped. She said I enabled her by being too easygoing about food. That I should have said no when she wanted dessert. That I should have been more of a leader when it came to what we were eating. I told her, we made choices together. I didn't force anything, she said. Exactly. You didn't stop me. That's the problem. Apparently, in her mind, love means playing diet police. Even though she always raved about how supportive and non-judgmental I was. She started a cleanse the next day. Not a diet, a spiritual food reset. Whatever that means. Story 19. She blamed me for her missing her flight. This wasn't a regular, we were running late situation. She booked the flight herself, packed herself, and went to the airport alone. I was at work the entire day. She calls me from the terminal in full meltdown mode. Turns out she got the PM-AM mixed up and showed up 12 hours late. I tried to console her and offered to help find a new flight. She goes quiet and says, I just feel like if you had looked at my itinerary when I told you about it, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So now I'm supposed to double-check her flight details like her unpaid assistant? She genuinely believed that if I had just taken a moment to verify, I could have prevented it. Keep in mind, I never even saw the confirmation email. I didn't book the trip. I wasn't going. She actually told her mom that I let her miss her flight. I let her pack. I let her go. Apparently, that was negligence. Story 20. He blamed me for his bad haircut. Let me be clear. I didn't cut his hair. I didn't even recommend the barber. All I did was say, yeah, that style could look good on you, when he showed me a Pinterest pic of some model with perfect genetics. He came back from the barbershop looking, let's just say, not like the photo. His hairline was uneven, and the fade was patchy. He walked in, took one look in the mirror and said, this is your fault. I asked how. He said, you hyped me up. You said it would look good. I reminded him I didn't cut it. He goes, yeah, but I wouldn't have done it if you didn't seem so into it. So now my enthusiasm was the issue? He refused to take selfies for 2 weeks and kept wearing a beanie everywhere. Even tried to get a refund from the barber, who laughed and said, maybe don't bring your girlfriend's opinion into the chair next time. That's when he blocked the barber and gave me the silent treatment. The hair grew back. The resentment didn't. Story 21. My ex blamed me for her losing her wallet in a city I wasn't even in. She had gone on a girls' trip to Miami. I was back home, minding my business. One night, she calls me crying from a hotel lobby, saying she lost her wallet and couldn't find it anywhere. I immediately asked how I could help. Maybe cancel her cards? Call the hotel? Nope. She didn't want solutions. She wanted to fight. She said, this wouldn't have happened if you weren't acting distant before I left. You made me anxious and I wasn't focused. I had no idea what she was talking about. We literally had a chill FaceTime the night before she flew out. She doubled down. If you were more emotionally present, I would have felt grounded. I wouldn't have been so scattered. I was just sitting there, in sweatpants, watching Netflix. She found the wallet 2 days later, at the bottom of her beach tote. Never apologized. Just sent me a selfie like nothing happened. Story 22. She blamed me for her car battery dying. We were parked at a lookout point, just chatting with the music on. After a while, she wanted to sit in the back seat to stargaze through the rear window. Cool, romantic, I was into it. But she left the headlights on. I even said something like, hey, should we turn off the lights? She waved it off. It'll be fine. I do this all the time. Spoiler. It was not fine. When the car didn't start, she glared at me and said, you should have just turned them off anyway. Why do you listen to me so literally? Then she started spiraling, saying I never take charge in the relationship and real men don't wait for permission to do the right thing. I was sitting there, jumper cables in hand, wondering how this turned into a full-blown masculinity debate. We got a jump from a random guy 20 minutes later. She barely said thank you. Just kept muttering, this wouldn't have happened if you were more decisive. I should have left her at that overlook. Story 23. He blamed me for his dog not liking. We had only been dating for like 2 months when I met his dog, a huge German shepherd named Max. I love dogs, but Max didn't return the favor. He barked at me every time I walked in and once tried to bite my scarf. I stayed respect, gave him space, brought treats, watched videos on dog behavior. Nothing worked. Then one night, my boyfriend says, I think you're the reason Max's anxiety has gotten worse. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He explained that Max feeds off bad energy, and that I walked in with insecurity, which apparently set off the dog's vibe radar. I was like, so your dog senses my internal doubts and reacts accordingly? He said, yeah, dogs know when people aren't being authentic. Okay, Dr. Doolittle. We broke up shortly after he suggested I go to obedience classes with Max to build trust. No thanks. I'm not about to get psychoanalyzed by a dog. Story 24. My ex blamed me for her missing a flash sale on shoes. We were out shopping, and she saw a pair of boots she liked but wanted to think on it. Later that night, she went online to buy them. Sold out. She lost her mind. I thought she was joking at first, but she was furious. You didn't encourage me enough. If you had just told me to buy them, I would have. I said, you're an adult. If you wanted the boots, buy the boots. That only made it worse. She accused me of being emotionally unsupportive and intentionally passive so I can say I told you so later. I didn't even care about the boots. I just didn't want to pressure her. She cried over boots and blamed me for the trauma of missing out on something she loved. The next day, she posted an Instagram story with a quote, never settle. Even when others tell you to. I was like, was that aimed at me? I never mentioned shoes again. Story 25. He blamed me for getting fired after he cussed out his boss. He worked in retail and always complained about his manager. One day, I encouraged him to professionally talk to HR if it was really that toxic. I said something like, "You deserve respect, but try to be calm and mature about it." Instead, he goes into work, blows up at his boss in front of a customer, and gets fired. He comes home and says, "This is on you. You put that idea in my head." I asked, "The idea to go nuclear?" "No, I didn't." He said, "You made me believe I was too good to be treated like that. You gassed me up too much." I was floored. "So I'm supposed to balance hyping you up just enough so you don't get confident enough to explode?" He legit believed I set him up to fail, like I was the puppet master behind his rage quit. He didn't even try to get another job. Just sat on the couch all day, sulking, saying things like, "You wanted this." "No, brother. I wanted you to talk to HR. You chose war." Story 26. She blamed me for her getting a parking ticket in her own driveway. How? I don't know. But she was adamant that I played a part in it. She parked partially blocking the sidewalk, just enough for the city to slap a fine on her windshield. When she saw the ticket, she stormed inside and said, "This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been distracted thinking about our argument last night." Our argument was me asking if she could maybe stop leaving dishes in the sink for 3 days straight. Real hostile stuff. So, because I brought up cleanliness, she was emotionally off, which made her park illegally, which made the city issue a fine, and somehow that circle traced back to me. She even said I owed her at least half for causing the headspace she was in when she parked. I gave her a quarter. Symbolic. We broke up the next week. Story 27. My ex blamed me for her getting into a fight with her coworker. She had vented to me the night before about someone at her job who was always passive-aggressively correcting her work. I just listened, nodded, gave her a "that does sound annoying" response, and said maybe she should address it calm. The next day, she full-on snaps on this woman at work. Like full meltdown. HR meeting, verbal warning, all of it. That night, she comes home and says, "You hyped me up too much. You made me feel like I was justified to go off." I was like, "What? I told you to stay calm and communicate." She goes, "Yeah, but your support gave me confidence." That's on you. So now being a good listener is grounds for corporate sabotage? I started mentally drafting my exit strategy after that. Story 28. He blamed me for his credit score dropping. Now, we never shared finances. We weren't married. I didn't even know his credit score. But one day, he gets denied for a new credit card and suddenly I'm in the hot seat. His logic? I was spending more to impress you. That's why I bought all that stuff. So technically, it's your fault. I told him, "You bought a PlayStation 5, a new phone, and Yeezys in the same month. I didn't ask for any of that." He said, "Yeah, but I wanted to look good around you, and you never told me to stop." So now I'm responsible for his poor impulse control because I didn't play financial referee? He even tried to guilt trip me like, "Wouldn't you feel bad if my credit gets ruined because I was trying to be a good boyfriend?" I'd feel bad if I kept dating someone who weaponized his own debt. Story 29. She blamed me for her cousin's engagement falling apart. This one was wild. Her cousin got engaged to a guy no one liked. I met him once, didn't say much. Apparently, she showed her cousin a DM I sent her saying, "Glad you're not settling like some people do." We were talking about our relationship, not theirs. Her cousin assumed it was about her, and it sparked a fight that led to a breakup. Instead of being mad at the cousin for overreacting or herself for showing private messages, she came after me. She said, "You always say things that are technically nice but also kind of toxic. You knew how that would sound." I said, "How would I know you'd screenshot it and show it to someone it wasn't even about?" She said, "I just didn't expect you to be so careless with your words." I started typing a response but realized, if you're getting blamed for someone else's cousin's relationship collapsing, it's time to pack it up. Story 30. My ex blamed me for her losing a bet with her friends. They were doing a no caffeine for a week challenge. She lasted 3 days before caving and grabbing a venti iced coffee. I didn't offer it to her. I didn't pressure. I literally just had coffee near her one morning. She stared at my cup like it was forbidden fruit. Then, 20 minutes later, drove to Starbucks. When she got back, she slammed the drink on the table and said, "I was doing fine until you walked in with that smug little sip." Smug. Sip. She blamed my lack of solidarity for her failure and said I sabotaged her because I didn't give up caffeine too. I told her it was your challenge, not ours. She said, "Exactly. And your support would have made the difference." We broke up the next month when she accused me of setting her up for failure again because I didn't wake her up for her spin class. I was never even told she had spin class. Story 31. My ex blamed me for her getting food poisoning. We ordered from the same Thai place. I got pad CEW. She got green curry. She devoured hers, said it was amazing. The next morning, she's hunched over the toilet sick as hell. Now, I made sure she had water, meds, everything. I even cleaned up after her. And somehow, through that feverish haze, she managed to look me in the eye and say, "This is your fault." I said, "How? I didn't even touch your food." She goes, "You're the one who suggested Thai. I wanted pizza." Mind you, I said either Thai or pizza, and she chose Thai. She literally picked it. But in her head, I influenced the decision. Said I always do that, plant the seed, and then act innocent when things go wrong. I was like, you got food poisoning, not mind-controlled. She also claimed my immune system probably fought it off, so I wouldn't get sick and look like the bad guy. You ever been accused of being too healthy during someone else's stomach bug? Story 32. He blamed me for his mom not liking. We had been dating for 6 months when I met his mom. I was polite, brought her flowers, complimented her cooking. She gave me nothing but side eyes and passive-aggressive jabs the whole night. Afterward, he got all quiet, then said, "You should have tried harder." I asked what he meant. He said I didn't charm his mom. Didn't show enough warmth. I told him I was respectful, kind, and made effort. But she clearly wasn't into me from the second I walked in. He goes, "You have this energy sometimes. Like you think you're better than people." What? Because I brought tulips? I asked if he ever stood up for me when she made comments. He said, "That's just how she is. You have to win her over." No thanks. I'm not in a reality show competition for her affection. She didn't like me, sure. But it wasn't because I didn't try. It's because she wanted her son to date a clone of herself. And he wanted me to play along. Nope. Story 33. She blamed me for her failing a college class. Not because I distracted her. Not because I gave bad advice. But because I slept too well. She would stay up late to study, and I'd be in bed by 10 p.m., out cold. She'd look over at me peacefully sleeping and, according to her, feel abandoned in her struggle. She said, "Seeing you relaxed made it harder for me to focus. I felt like I was the only one stressed." I asked, "Would you rather I also stayed up, exhausted myself, and accomplished nothing?" She goes, "It would have been nice to suffer together." That was the moment I realized I was dating someone who saw my REM cycles as a betrayal. She legit said, "You dream while I cry into textbooks." It's unfair. I didn't argue. I just kept dreaming, right out of that relationship. Story 34. My ex blamed me for getting banned from a subreddit. We both used Reddit casually, and he was obsessed with this one community where he constantly argued with people. One day, he gets banned after a particularly spicy debate about air fryers. I kid you not. He was fuming. When I asked what happened, he said, "They were being idiots and I called them out. And you distracted me while I was typing." I had literally walked into the room and asked if he wanted a snack. He goes, "I was on a roll until you derailed my train of thought. You made me come off aggressive. So now my offer of chips caused a Reddit meltdown?" He also said I broke his rhythm and messed up his flow, which led to the ban. The kicker? He tried appealing the ban and actually mentioned me in the message. Said something like, "Apologies for tone, I was interrupted mid-comment by my girlfriend." The mods didn't unban him. I didn't either. Story 35. She blamed me for her nightmares. She'd wake up and say, "I had a dream you cheated on." I'd be like, "It was just a dream." And she'd say, "Yeah, but dreams come from somewhere." Every time she had a bad dream about us, she treated it like a premonition. Like I had subconsciously triggered her mind into betrayal mode. One night, she woke up and said, "You cheated on me in a dream with a girl who looked exactly like my coworker." She didn't speak to me the rest of the morning. I asked, "Do you think I planted that?" She said, "I don't know. But the brain knows things before we do." She started analyzing my tone, my phone habits, even the way I blinked, like it was all confirmation her dream was right. I had to end it when she said, "Maybe my subconscious is trying to protect me from you." Nah. Your subconscious needs therapy, not a breakup scapegoat. Story 36. My ex blamed me for her phone screen cracking while she dropped it on the sidewalk. We were walking back from dinner, and she was texting while holding her iced coffee in the same hand. You can probably guess what happened. The phone slipped and smacked the pavement. Screen shattered instantly. She looked down, then looked at me like I dropped it. I only had it in that hand because I was holding your leftovers in the other. So now I'm responsible for your hand management. She genuinely believed that if I had just carried the bag myself, which I offered to do earlier, this would have been avoided. I reminded her that she insisted she was fine. She said, "Yeah, but you know I always say that. You're supposed to ignore me and take it anyway." I didn't know I was dating someone who expected me to telepathically override her words and take random objects from her hands to prevent gravity. I offered to pay for half the screen repair. She said it wasn't about the money. It's about how little you understand me. We broke up a week later. She texted me from a phone with a fully repaired screen. Story 37. He blamed me for burning his grilled cheese. We were at his place and he asked if I could make him a snack while he was on a Zoom call. No problem. I threw on a grilled cheese, like I've done 1,000 times before. Well, halfway through, my mom called. I got distracted. Came back to find the sandwich a little extra crispy. He got off his call, saw the grilled cheese, and his face dropped like I'd run over his dog. You knew I was having a rough day. Why would you make it worse with this? It was a sandwich, not a betrayal. I apologized and offered to make another. He refused, and just sat there dramatically eating the burnt one like he was in a sad indie movie montage. Later, he said, I just don't feel supported. You don't take my comfort seriously. Because I slightly overcooked a snack? I realized I wasn't in a relationship. I was in a hostage situation with a dairy-based trick. Story 38. She blamed me for her missing her therapist appointment. Let me be clear. I didn't book it, cancel it, or even know what time it was. She woke up late, realized she missed it, and immediately said, You didn't remind me. I said, I didn't even know you had one today. She replied, Exactly. You don't care enough to ask about my mental health calendar. I asked if she had reminders or notifications set. She said she turned them off because she wanted to practice time management and that I should have noticed she was sleeping in and said something. So now I'm her backup alarm clock and unofficial therapy secretary? She added, This is why I need therapy in the first place. I'm overwhelmed because I carry everything alone. Girl, you overslept. That's not a personality flaw. That's just being tired. I hope she made the next session. I did not make it to the next week of that relationship. Story 39. My ex blamed me for his bad haircut photos going viral. He got a cut he didn't like. Some overly trendy fade that he asked for, but didn't suit him. He hated it, said he looked like a sad K-pop backup dancer. Then, a few days later, a photo of us at a mutual friend's party got posted on Instagram. Someone made a joke in the comments about his hair, and it picked up steam. People were tagging each other, laughing, even reposting it. It got back to him, and he flipped out. You should have warned me that pic was going up. I said, I didn't even take it. He said, but you posed with me. You saw my hair. You knew it looked bad. You should have said something. I asked, you wanted me to tell you your hair looks so bad we shouldn't take a photo together? He said, yes, that's what a real partner does. A real partner also doesn't blame someone else for their viral flop. Next time, get a better cut or own it. I'm not your PR team. Story 40. She blamed me for crying during a movie she picked. It was some emotional drama about a terminally ill couple. Her choice. Halfway through, I started tearing up. Not full sobbing, just a few quiet tears. She noticed and paused it. Then she said, I can't believe you're crying right now. This was supposed to be my emotional release. I blinked. What? She goes, I've had a long week and I needed this movie to help me cry. But now you're crying, and it feels performative. I told her, I'm not trying to cry. I just felt the scene. She said, it feels like you're hijacking my emotional moment. Apparently, my involuntary tears were some sort of spotlight theft. She even accused me of emotional competition. I've never been shamed for being too empathetic before. She made me feel like I should have written a permission slip to cry. After that, we mostly watched comedies. Until the relationship itself became a drama. And this time, I didn't cry when it ended. Story 41. My ex blamed me for her bad handwriting. No joke. We were filling out some forms at the DMV and she messed up a line, scribbled it out, then started over. The woman behind the counter gave her a look, and when we got back in the car, she was pissed. You make me nervous when I write, she said. I asked, how? She said, you're too quiet. You stare. It messes me up. Apparently, my sitting still while she filled out paperwork created a weird pressure that made her forget how to hold a pen. Later, she told her friends, he has this critical energy like I'm always being judged. Even when he's silent, they all nodded like it made total sense. Meanwhile, I was just holding her purse and minding my business. I realized then I wasn't a boyfriend. I was a human anxiety trigger. Story 42. He blamed me for his dream not coming true, literally. He had a very vivid dream one night where he invented something. A new phone app or something like that. He was so excited about it when he woke up, but he didn't write it down. By the time he got dressed, he'd forgotten the whole thing. Later that day, he said, this wouldn't have happened if you let me sleep in. I was like, all I did was bring you coffee at 10 a.m., like I always do. He said, you woke me up too fast. My brain didn't have time to process and store the dream. That idea could have changed my life. He was dead serious. He blamed me for interrupting the birth of his genius. Then he spent 2 weeks randomly saying, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I know it was going to be big. I just needed more time. Eventually, he moved on. But not before telling me I owed him $1 million. I told him I'll let him sleep forever if that helps. Story 43. She blamed me for her forgetting her best friend's birthday. She missed it entirely. No text, no call, nothing. The next morning, she freaks out and immediately says, "You didn't remind me?" I asked, "Why would I?" "It's your best friend," she said, "because I told you about it last week. You should have put it in your phone. So now I'm supposed to be her event manager?" She kept going. "If you actually listened when I talk, you'd remember these things." I did listen. I even remembered her saying, "I need to remember Sarah's birthday," but I thought she had it under control. Because again, it's her best friend. She apologized to her friend, then unfollowed me on Instagram for a day because she was so annoyed at my lack of support. Eventually, I followed her permanently. Story 44. My ex blamed me for her losing her AirPods. Not because I touched them, not because I borrowed, but because I distracted her while she was looking for them. She was late for work and rushing around the apartment, checking under cushions and drawers, everywhere. I asked if she wanted help. She snapped, "No, you'll just move things and mess up my system." So I sat down. Then she turns to me and goes, "You're just sitting there? That's not helpful." I said, "You literally just told me not to help." She screamed, "Well, now I'm flustered. I can't think straight with you just breathing over there." 20 minutes later, she found them in her pocket. And did I get a "my bad"? Nope. Just a cold whatever. The energy in this place is just so chaotic sometimes. Lady, the only chaos here is you. Story 45. He blamed me for his phone running out of storage. He was trying to record a TikTok. Halfway through, his phone stopped recording. Storage full, he got super frustrated and threw his phone on the bed. Then he looked at me. "This is because of you." I laughed. "How?" He said, "Most of the videos and photos on my phone are of you. You made me obsessed with documenting everything. Now I'm out of space." I offered to airdrop him the ones I had, or even help clean out the gallery. He said no, because the point is, I shouldn't be this emotionally attached to pixels of someone who doesn't even appreciate it. Because I forgot to like one of his Instagram stories the day before. I started deleting myself from his life, the way he should have deleted those 600 selfies he took in the gym mirror. Story 46. My ex blamed me for her being late to work after she snoozed her alarm 4 times and didn't get out of bed until 20 minutes before her shift. I was already up and getting ready for my own day, and she just kept hitting snooze while mumbling, "Wake me up in 5. I reminded her 3 times that she was cutting it close, and she just groaned and pulled the blanket over her face. Eventually, she bolts out of bed in panic mode and starts yelling, "Why didn't you make me get up?" I said, "I tried. You literally told me to leave you alone." She goes, "You didn't try hard enough. If you really cared, you would have pulled the blanket off or poured water on me or something. What am I, a drill sergeant? I'm not waterboarding my girlfriend into punctuality." She clocked in late, got a warning from her boss, and spent the whole evening sulking like I was the reason she couldn't function as an adult. Weirdly enough, that was the same week she said she wanted to move in together. Pass. Story 47. He blamed me for his dreams not working out. He wanted to be a full-time musician. I was nothing but supportive. I helped him record demo tracks, paid for one of his recording sessions as a birthday gift, even designed his little DIY album cover. But after a year of barely any shows, no streaming traction, and constant financial stress, he started getting bitter. One night after a particularly rough gig, he looked at me and said, "I think you're part of the reason I haven't made it." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He said, "I've spent so much time trying to make you happy. I put my focus in the wrong place." Mind you, I never once asked him to prioritize me over his music. In fact, I spent most weekends alone while he was grinding. Then he said, maybe if I had been dating someone who challenged me more, I wouldn't have settled. That's when I realized he didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted a muse to blame when things didn't go his way. So I gave him space to chase his dream. Permanently. Story 48. She blamed me for her not getting enough likes on a photo. She posted a picture of us on vacation. Cute selfie, sunset in the background. A few hours later, she starts pouting. "It's not performing like I thought it." I said, "It looks good to me. It had like over 100 likes already." She goes, "Yeah, but my last one with just me got more in 2 hours. I think it's the caption, or maybe it's you." "Me?" She says, "No offense, but you're not exactly, like, an engagement magnet. You don't post a lot, so the algorithm doesn't know you. Girl, are you blaming my Instagram presence for your metrics?" Then she asked me to repost it to my story to boost traction. I did. She still wasn't satisfied. She edited the caption twice. Eventually, she archived it and posted a solo shot instead. Next day, caption, "Sometimes you shine brighter alone." I should have taken that as a sign. Story 49. My ex blamed me for her getting a speeding ticket. We were driving to a wedding. She was behind the wheel. We were running a bit late because she took forever getting ready, not because of me. She kept glancing at the clock, muttering about traffic, and then, boom, blue lights in the mirror. She gets pulled over doing 17 over the limit. Officer gives her a ticket and a warning. As soon as we drive off, she turns to me and says, "You were supposed to be watching the time." "What?" she said. "You knew I was stressed and rushing. You should have told me to slow down." I replied, "You were going 80 and a 60. I thought you were aware of that." She said, "I was focused on the road." "That's your job, to help me regulate when I'm overwhelmed. So now I'm a co-pilot, emotional manager, and cruise control all in one?" She was quiet for the rest of the drive, until the reception when she told her cousin I let her get a ticket. Let her. Wild. Story 50. He blamed me for getting embarrassed at my family dinner. We were together for about 5 months when I invited him to meet my parents. Chill evening, nothing fancy, home-cooked food, good vibes. My dad asked what he did for work, and my ex, trying to be funny, said as little as possible. My parents laughed awkward. I shot him a look like, "Really?" Later that night, he blew up on, "Why didn't you back me up? You just sat there while I bombed." I said, "What was I supposed to do? Applaud your joke about being lazy?" He said I set him up to fail because I didn't prepare him for how stiff my family was. He also said I didn't protect him when the vibe got weird. He made it sound like I led him into enemy territory with no armor. I told him next time he could write a script beforehand if that made him feel safer. He didn't find that funny either. He never came to another family event. I didn't invite him. Story 51. She blamed me for her losing a game night with her friends. It was some trivia card game we were all playing in a group setting. She had a solid lead. And then came a question about world geography. She whispered, "Is Lisbon the capital of Spain?" I casually said, "No, Madrid is." She locked in Lisbon anyway. Wrong answer. She lost the round, her team lost the game, and suddenly I'm the villain of the... Back at her place, she was sulking. I asked what was wrong and she said, "You threw off my confidence. You said it so quickly I thought you were trying to trick me." I said, "So, you thought I tricked you by being right?" She replied, "You could have just let me answer without interfering." That's basic support. From then on, I wasn't allowed to sit next to her at game night. And yes, I was still expected to attend. Story 52. My ex blamed me for her favorite plant dying. She had this big monstera she called Moni that she treated like her child. One weekend, she went out of town and asked me to water her plants. I followed her instructions exactly. Moni got 2 cups of water. Not too much, not too little. 2 days later, she comes home and notices some yellowing on a few leaves. Immediately, "What did you do?" I told her exactly what I did. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "She doesn't trust you. Plants know." She went on to say Moni probably sensed my chaotic aura and absorbed the stress through the water. It wasn't overwatering. It wasn't lighting. It was my vibe that allegedly killed this plant. 2 weeks later, she brought home a new monstera and didn't let me near it. I think that was the plant version of a rebound. Story 53. He blamed me for getting called out by his boss for being late. He was chronically late to work like every single day. One morning, his boss finally had enough and wrote him up. That night, instead of reflecting on, his own time management, he sat me down and said, "You really don't help me in the mornings." I asked, "You mean like wake-up help?" He said, "Yes. If you actually cared, you'd make sure I was up on time. You see me sleeping through my alarm and say nothing." I reminded him that I'd tried to wake him up several times in the past, and he'd literally gotten mad at me. He once told me, "I'm not a kid. Stop treating me like one." Now suddenly, I wasn't treating him like one enough. He wanted me to somehow keep him accountable without being annoying about it. Not sure what that even means. Gentle telepathy? I suggested setting more alarms. He said, "That's not the point. You should want to help." We broke up. He still sleeps through alarms, just with no one there to blame but himself. Story 54. She blamed me for ruining her birthday surprise that I didn't even know about. Her friends were planning something for her birthday, some rooftop dinner thing. I wasn't part of the group chat because they wanted it to be a friend-only vibe this year. Cool, no hard feelings. But then one of the friends accidentally mentioned it around me. I didn't think much of it. I didn't even bring it up to her. But the day of the surprise, she could tell I was acting weird. And that was enough to spiral. After the dinner, she called me crying, saying I tainted the moment because I knew it was coming. I said, "I didn't ruin anything. I didn't even show up." She goes, "Exactly. You not being there made it feel incomplete. And I spent the whole night wondering why you weren't excited for me." I reminded her she told me not to come. She said, "You could have fought harder." At that point, I realized I wasn't dating a person. I was dating a movie script that needed a dramatic twist. Story 55. He blamed me for his friend group falling apart. They had a group chat that slowly became inactive. Typical adult life stuff. People move, get busy, priorities change. But one day, he said, ever since I started dating you, the group isn't the same. I asked what he meant. He said, I think they feel like you changed me. I used to be more fun, more available. So now, me being in his life, him being less fun? He said, you don't like when I hang out late, so I stop going. You don't laugh at all their jokes. It changes the vibe. I said, I've never told you not to go out. You chose to stay in. He replied, yeah, but your energy makes me feel guilty. So because I exist and have a different sense of humor, his entire friend group dynamic collapsed? Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe the group wasn't that solid to begin with. Either way, he tried to blame me for the social equivalent of a group chat going silent. Wild.